We had a really good month. Our claims were up, the participants were up, the team was really busy. Now everyone was working, money was landing in the account, and from the outside, it looked like the business was really firing. And then I sat down with the actual numbers, not the bank balance, the actual numbers. And I realized we were barely breaking even. The revenue looked great, but the profit was almost nothing. And I could not immediately tell you why. Hey guys, I'm Camille DG, veteran nurse with over 20,000 clinical hours, former NDIS provider owner and COO of Spacia Shift. And at that moment, sitting with the numbers and not being able to explain the gap is one of the most common things I do see when I talk to other NDIS providers. Because here's the thing, most NDIS providers know their revenue, but very few know whether they're genuinely profitable. And those are not the same question. So in this video, I'll walk you through what is the actual check I run, whether an NDIS operation is building something real or just busy. So there are 3 specific numbers you need to know: a set of hidden costs that almost never show up on a standard P&L, and some rough benchmarks to tell you whether what you're looking at is healthy or not. So I'll warn you now, for some of you, this is going to be really uncomfortable, but better to know today than in 12 months' time. Section 1, why NDIS profitability is harder to see than it should be. So let's start with why this is so easy to miss. NDIS payments arrive in cycles, often in arrears. Your payroll goes out weekly or fortnightly, and that timing mismatch creates a cash flow picture that can look perfectly healthy, even when your margins are thin or negative. So when money hits the account from the NDIA, it feels like revenue, and it is, but it represents services that you delivered weeks ago against the cost that you've already absorbed. So the month your account looks fullest is often the month you delivered the most, which also means the month you spent the most. Most providers I've spoken to manage by watching the bank balance. And if the numbers are going up, it feels fine. If it's going down, there's a problem. But a business can run a comfortable looking bank balance and still be structurally unprofitable because it's growing, but is it really? Especially if it's growing anyway, because growth amplifies both the revenue and the cost. And if your margin is thin, scaling just means you're losing money faster. And it's not a discipline problem, that's a visibility problem. And you can't fix what you can't see. So Section 2, the hidden cost categories. Your P&L is missing. Here's where it gets real. There are 5 most cost categories that kill NDIS margins, and almost none of them show up on a standard profit and loss statement. So first, unclogged admin hours. When you or your senior staff are doing the rostering, you're chasing the documentation, you're handling the compliance, those hours often don't appear as a cost line. They're just owner time or management, but they're real economic costs. In a provider with about 30 staff, unlogged admin hours can represent $80,000 to $120,000 a year in genuine cost that's invisible on paper. And second, worker overtime from poor rostering. These last-minute sick calls and inefficient scheduling drive overtime a lot. So at penalty rates, a badly rostered week costs materially more than a well-rostered one for the exact same clinical hours that were delivered. That difference disappears straight into your payroll line, and you never see it as a rostering problem. You just see it as a payroll number that's higher than what it should be. And third, staff turnover costs. Replacing a support worker, the advertising, the screening, the NDIS checks, the onboarding, training, reduced productivity during the ramp-up period runs $3,000 to $7,000 fully loaded. And in a sector with turnover rates as high as ours, a provider with about 40 staff could easily be spending $60,000 to $100,000 a year on turnover that they've never calculated. So it's not in the P&L, it's buried in recruitment costs and management time. And fourth is the billing leakage. Under claim shifts, these incorrect rates, travel you're entitled to claim but you didn't. This is revenue that was earned and it probably wasn't collected. It doesn't appear as a cost, but it functions exactly like one. A provider doing 200 shifts a week with a 5% leakage rate is leaving significant money on the table every freaking single month, you guys. Fifth is the compliance incidents. An audit, a compliance notice, a reportable incident investigation. These cost real money in management time, legal review, and operational disruption. So most providers have no line item for this until it happens. 5 categories, none of them on your standard P&L, all of them affecting your actual margin right now. So let's talk about section 3, the 3 numbers you've got to know. Now, here's what I actually want you to take away from this video, these 3 numbers. If you know these 3 numbers, you have a genuine read on your financial health. If you don't, you're flying blind. Number 1, cost per participant per week. Now, you've got to take your total operating costs for a period, divide by your active participant count, divide by the number of weeks. This is your break-even unit. If the funding in a participant's plan doesn't cover this number, you are delivering that participant at a loss. Full stop. I bet you didn't know that. Number 2, cost per shift delivered, total cost. And this needs to include your admin overhead allocated across all shifts, divided by the number of shifts that you've delivered. Now, this tells you whether your operation model is inefficient or efficient. If you're spending $110 to deliver a $300 shift, the business model doesn't work at scale. So you'll just lose more money more efficiently as you grow. Number 3, admin cost as a percentage of revenue. Now, this one is the one that surprises people the most. Best practice NDIS providers actually run admin costs at 8 to 12% of the revenue. Now, providers on manual systems, and most providers that I've looked at are running manual systems, often sit at about 8 to 25% without even knowing it. So every percentage point over 12 is margin being consumed by overhead. That's not an accounting detail. That is real money that isn't going to your participants, your staff, or your business. So section 4, what good actually looks like. I want to give you some directional benchmarks. These aren't prescriptive. Support type, geography, participant complexity all affect the numbers. But as starting reference points, here's what I look for in a financially stable NDIS provider. Admin cost, 8 to 12% of revenue. Support worker cost, 65 to 72% of revenue. Target operating margins, 8 to 15%. And worker to admin staff ratio, well, above 8 to 1. If your numbers are materially off these benchmarks, that's not necessarily a crisis, but it is most definitely a signal. And the signal is almost always pointing at one of the same 3 places: the billing leakage, the admin overhead, and the rostering inefficiency. So those are the levers that move these numbers. They're also the levers that are the hardest to see when you're running manual systems, which is exactly the point. Now, section 5, when your operations are the financial problem. So here's the pattern I've seen across enough providers to say it with confidence. The providers who are hitting those benchmarks, 8 to 12% in admin costs, the strong margin, the clear cost per shift, they've almost universally automated the 3 operational functions that I've been describing. I'm talking the billing, the rostering, the admin coordination. And it's not because they're unusually tech forward, but because the manual versions of these functions are structurally too expensive at scale. So if you're doing those things manually, you are not competing on a level playing field with the other providers who aren't. You're just absorbing higher costs and wondering where the hell the margins went. I know this because I ran this exact same business. I did the calculations on everything myself, and the number that moved everything was the admin cost as a percentage of the revenue. Now, when that number came down, the margin picture changed, not because the revenue went up, but because the cost of running the operation went down. And that's when growth actually starts to build something real. And that's the insight I wanted to build into Spacia Shift from the very get-go, because I knew from the inside exactly what operational costs were preventable, and I needed a system that made them visible before they became an actual problem. So if you've been running through your own numbers while watching this, if any of those benchmarks and numbers landed in an uncomfortable way, that is worth acting on. So copy the link in the description, paste it into your browser, and see if you guys qualify for our 14-day free trial. And I'd point you specifically at the operations dashboard. It's built to give you guys exactly the cost visibility that we've been talking about today. So your admin cost as a percentage of revenue, your cost per shift, and where your billing leakage is actually sitting. Heck, we provide human support the whole way through, and you might even get me on the call. Drop a comment below as well. Tell me which one of these three numbers that you've never actually calculated for your own business, or if you ran the numbers and found something you weren't expecting. I read every single comment and I'll give you a straight answer and response. So if this video was useful, share it with another provider who needs to run these checks on their business, because a financially sustainable provider is a better provider for the team, for the participant, and for you. Till the next video, you guys, take care.